All righty. Good day to everybody here. We're going to talk about how to assemble a simple lever on OnShape. So creating a simple machine. I went ahead and created this lever assembly lab for everybody. I made it public, so you should be able to go to public and find a lever assembly lab, and it should come up. When you open it up, it will ask you to make a copy on your end. For me, it did not because I am the owner. But you can make a copy to your OnShip account, and from there you can go ahead and start assembling this lever system using these VEX components that I've laid out for you already. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to head back to my library, and I'm going to modify a copy of it and walk you through the process of assembling this simple machine. If for some reason when you open it up, it looks like this and you're like wondering, well, where is the stuff? I don't see anything here. Well, click on assembly one and it should be here. Okay. This was created using the VEX parts library. You could add your entire library to your OnShape as well, so that when you go to insert and go to other documents, you can go to VEX V5 parts and you can add any VEX V5 part to your assembly should you so desire. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a simple lever. I'm going to make a first class lever. I'm going to go ahead and prop it up on this C channel here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by clicking my fasten mate. In fact, most of my assembly is going to be built with fasten mates. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And I'm going to go ahead and come in close and select the surface. And then I'm going to select the surface of this here. It is on the wrong side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it. And then I can go ahead and play with some offsets here to position this where I'd like for it to be. Okay. It is oriented the way I want because I'm going to place my lever kind of off the side here. And I'm going to use this gusset plate to fasten this C channel to this other larger C channel, my little base plate here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it in the orientation, but I'm just going to go ahead and shift it. I may find that I need to shift it a little bit more so I can put that gusset plate in the right location, but I can come back and address that if I need to. So initially what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and it looks like my Y direction is along the length of this C channel. So I'm going to go ahead and position this over about 1/2 inch in the other direction. So I'm going to change that to a -0.5. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and center it. So let me go ahead and go -1, maybe -1.25. And we'll go ahead and run with that for now. And I may have to adjust that later on. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK for now. And I'll move that if I need to. But as you can see right now, as I click on this, I can no longer move this component. You click on some of the other components, you can move them around. And I cannot move this one because it is now fixed to this larger C channel, which I'm using as a base plate. The larger C channel has been fixed, so I went ahead and fixed that for you, so it will not move. You can go ahead and unfix it should you desire. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and, rather than worrying about my fasteners and attaching my C channel to the base here, I'm going to go ahead and work on assembling the actual lever itself. I'm going to go ahead and take this flat bearing here and I'm going to go ahead and mate or fasten this. So I'm going to select that, center there, and I'm going to come over here to my C channel and I'm going to go ahead and probably go up somewhere high. And I'm going to go ahead and select and hold Shift key. If I don't hold Shift key, as I try to hover and get that center point, it disappears. But if I hold the Shift key, when it appears, hold Shift, and then I can go ahead and select that center there. Okay. Again, it's flipped in the wrong orientation, so I'm going to press this arrow here to flip the primary axis, and it's going to flip it the right direction. It is not oriented properly. I do need to rotate it, so I'm going to go ahead, and I can do that a couple different ways. I can continually click this button, and it's going to just rotate it 90 degrees. And when I do that, I like what I see. So I can go ahead and click OK. All right, so right now I am I've got my flat bearing in the right location. I'm going to go ahead and add a flat bearing on the opposite side as well, because what I want to do is I want to place this axle that I have through both those flat bearings. So I'm going to go ahead and click on fasten again, fasten mate. I'm going to click on this center here. Then I'm going to go over to my C channel, and I'm going to select the same corresponding center on the opposite side, and this one automatically oriented in the correct location, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK there. Okay, so now I've got those placed in the correct locations. I can go ahead and now worry about my axle. So I'm going to go ahead excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and fasten mate. I'm going to take that center of that axle there. Oh, snap, something happened. Let me refresh. Hopefully something saved. It's getting a little too crazy maybe with my OnShape. Okay, so let's try that again. Fasten. I'm going to come over to the center of this. I'm going to go over to the center of this here, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And what I'm going to actually do, you know what? I made a mistake, so I'm going to take a step back. What I really want is I want that to rotate. So I'm going to select this Revolute Mate feature. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this here now. And then I'm going to go back. So I don't want to use a fasten mate. For everything else, I'm going to use a fasten mate. For that one, I'm going to use that Revolute Mate. So again, I want the center of this. I'm going to go ahead and click on there. Okay. Now I can go ahead and now offset this. And I can see that I want to move this in the Z direction. So I'm going to offset this in the Z direction, and I will go ahead and put maybe an inch. Let me zoom out a bit so I can see what I see. I'll go maybe 1.5 inches. And that should potentially give me what I'm looking for. Okay. I can see that it is going through the other flat bearing. If you want to, you can go ahead and bring that back just a hair. But if I want to add a shaft collar, I may want to leave this exposed here. Okay, I can add some shaft collars on the inside here to keep it locked in place in that direction. So I think I'll go ahead and just do that instead and leave this as is. You could also use a longer shaft, so that way you can have it come out on both sides, but I'm going to be okay with that. Now, when I do that, since I used the Revolute Mate feature, as I click on this, you can see that I have the ability to then rotate it. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my locking plate here. This locking plate is got these two components that already come pre-assembled in your Vex kits. In the library, they come separated, so I'm going to have to assemble this, and then I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my 1x piece. What this will allow my 1x piece to do is once I fasten this to my 1x piece using some screws, the axle will go through the center of this piece here, and it will allow my 1x to rotate with my axle. It'll lock it essentially to that axle and allow it to rotate together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and first I'll inspect this part here. So it looks like it's a darkened color, so it's kind of hard to see, but it looks like I'm going to have to take this and insert it from this side here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use a fasten mate again. I'll go ahead and select the center of this to the center of this. Let me ensure I'm getting the right thing here. Right there. Okay. So I clicked on it and it placed it in there. Actually, that doesn't look quite right, does it? Let's try that again. Drag this out. I'm going to go ahead and take this, and I'm going to select this middle part here. Oh, I know what happened. I selected that edge. It looked like the center. Let me go ahead and uncheck that. Hold shift. There we go. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to hold shift, select the center of that. And that looks like it's correct. So I can go ahead and use offset again. I'm going to bring that in the Z direction. This is my first attempt at this, so I'm not quite sure what those dimensions are. That's way too far. Oops. Let me click on this and open it up again, and I can edit that. So 0.1 looks like it's just about correct. Click OK. I can inspect the part a little bit more. May have to come in just a hair. I'm pretty sure that the actual part is flush. So again, if you want to edit that, you could double click, and I can change this to 0.15 maybe, or 0.105. But anyway, I think I'm gonna be okay with what I see here. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and place that lock plate onto my 1x piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and do another fasten mate. I'm gonna go ahead and select the center of this again. So I'm gonna hover over this part. I'm gonna hit shift. I'm gonna select that middle piece there, that center point. I'm gonna come over to my 1x. I'm going to go ahead and select one of these. Now you can position this based on what type of lever you'd like. I'm going to hold shift key again. So again, hover over this, hold shift key. That's going to keep that center point selectable. Hit that, and there I go. Okay. And actually, let me click OK to show you what happens. Okay. It enters that lock plate like this. Now, what I could do instead is let me take a step back, and I will go ahead and rather than using that centerpiece, I'm going to go ahead and use the center of this circle to align it with this. Let's go ahead and try that instead. There's more than one way to accomplish this task, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is play around with a couple different options to see what works best. So I'm going to go ahead and hover over here now, select or hold shift, and then select the center of that. Now it brings over what looks like just that locking plate. What I'm going to do is not worry about that because it's going to bring that other piece with it. So I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. It looks okay. I'm going to click OK to see what happens. So you can see that it brings that over. The piece is kind of far in to the part. So what I'm going to do is click on that fasten mate again. I'm going to offset it in the Z direction. And again, I'll just move it until it moves in the correct direction. So it looks like it's in a much better situation now. So I can click OK there. So let me zoom out so we can see what we've got. I'm going to use my right click and hold my right click. That allows me to rotate. I'm going to click my center mouse wheel button. That allows me to pan. And now what I can do is take this and place it onto my shaft. So I'm going to go ahead and use my mate feature again, my fasten mate. I'm going to hover over this, hold shift, capture that center point. I'm going to come over to my shaft here, just hover over it, click on it. That looks okay. I'm going to hit the OK button, and that allows me to then place that there. Now, I can manipulate this at this point, and what you notice is that that shaft actually rotates with my 1x piece. It's kind of nice. I like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually slide this back onto my shaft a little bit more. It's kind of on the edge. So I'm going to go over to that fasten mate. I'm going to double click it. I'm going to offset, and it looks like I need to offset in the Z direction. So let me try going back just a little bit, -0.. Let's try 1/10 of an inch and click OK. And that brings that back a little bit. You could add some additional components like some spacers from the library if you like. I did not import those into this original file, but you're more than welcome to, and I can show you how to do that. But I'm going to make that come back just a little bit more. Let's do negative 0.2, and then I'll click OK. Let's go to 5. All right. Works a little bit better for me. Okay. So now as I zoom out using my mouse wheel, I can see I've got my lever. For your students, you could pretty much just stop here if you like, but if you want them to assemble something on OnShape that will match, the build that they're going to put together physically, you may want to have them continue on by adding the fasteners and adding this this gusset plate as well to fasten this member to this member here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start off by adding my screws. You're going to notice that even if I have to go back and shift this C channel left or right, so that way this gusset plate lines up with these holes here in the plate, I can go back and do that, and all my other constraints that I've made will shift with the parts that they're constrained to. So I'm not too worried that this is not in the right location just yet. But what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and add some screws to my assembly. I'll go ahead and take some of these smaller screws here, and I will go ahead and rotate this just a little bit. I'm going to fasten mate this to the center of this hole here. All right, and that seems to have lined up pretty well. Actually, no, that's not the one I want. I want to mate it to this one here. Sorry, wrong size screw. Okay, the smaller screw, so I can see I need to shift this into the Z direction. So I'm going to offset this. Let's try 2/10 of an inch. That looks pretty good. I'll hit the OK. Looks like it went a little too far. Okay, there. Okay. Now you can see I've added some components to my lever, and because they're mated, they rotate with the lever itself, which is kind of neat. Okay. Now I'll go back and I'll do the same thing for the other screws. I can actually drag this and we'll get it in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and fasten mate. Again, I will click on that. I will come over here and click on this. And I will go ahead and offset this. Oh, I don't remember what I used, 0.18 maybe. Okay. And now I've got that screw in place. I need to go ahead and add a couple of caps nuts. So I'll bring those over here. Just grab a couple of my parts. I'll do a fasten mate again. I will select the center of that. I will rotate this around to select the center of this. And it oriented that perfectly. If it didn't orient perfectly for you, again, you have this flip primary axis button where you can flip this. But mine was working okay. I just need to offset it in the Z direction, it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and offset this maybe 1/10 of an inch, way too far. So 0.05 maybe. Looks like that's about right. So I'll click OK. Remember that 0.05. I'll do the same thing for my other caps nut here. I want to align that with this screw here. Looks like I need to bring that over just a hair, so I'll offset that again. Oh, I don't know what it was at point. I already forgot the number. 0.05. Click OK. And there we go. Okay, so let me zoom this out again. Rotate this, add it over, rotate it. And as you can see, as I move my lever, that screw, or the screws and the caps nuts rotate with it. All right, so we're going to continue this process of mating components together, fastening them together with my mate features. I am going to now go ahead and, as I take a look, I've got these two flat bearings. I'm going to go ahead and add a screw into each one to hold it in place. So I'm going to go ahead and drag these larger screws over. I believe these are 1/2-inch screws. You could actually expand this. Doesn't give me the size here, but anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and fasten mate. I'm going to take a look at the bottom of this, zoom out. I'm gonna come over to my flat bearing here. And as I do this, I'm probably gonna wanna add a small set of spacers in between my lever and my flat bearing so that I don't interfere with the head of the screw. Okay. Anyway, I see that I need to offset this in the Z direction. So I'm going to go ahead and offset that. Let's try 0.5 and see what happens. Okay. That looks pretty good. Click OK. All right. And now I've got the screw coming through. I can add a Kep's nut to the back of that. So let me go ahead and add the other screw first. So I'm going to, again, fasten mate. Come down here, select this, and I am going to rotate this to this. I'm going to offset in the Z direction, 0.5 inches. Click OK. And in my assembly, I am out of those components. One of the cool things you can do is you can right click on this component here and you can copy it, and then I can paste it, and I can paste it again. And so now I've got two more screws that I could use. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this. I'm going to fasten mate this with this. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to offset it 1/2 inch. Drag this one over here. I'm going to fasten mate again. Oh, I'll click OK there. Fasten mate this one to this flat bearing here. I'm going to offset 1/2 inch. Click OK. And again, I just tried a value, and if you see that 1/2 inch is too much for you, you can always change that to your liking. So I've got my assembly there. Still need some Kep's nuts. So I'm going to go ahead and fasten mate this Kep's nut here with this screw here. And it looks like I need to offset it in the negative Z direction. So let's try negative 0.1. Oh, no, positive Z direction. We'll try 0.1. A little too far, so let's try 0.05. Too little, let's try 0.09. Too far, 0.08. Click OK. All right. Then I'll do the same thing. That still may be a little too far into my material. So let me drag my components over here. Fasten mate. This here with this here. I can go ahead and offset it. Too far. Okay. A little bit more. All right. Do the same thing for the other ones. Select that. Select this. Set. And then one more. That one there. With this one here. Offset. Okay. And now I've got my Kep's nuts in place. Again, as I move this, So again, I was talking about adding some spacers because there may be some interference here between this and the head of that screw. So if I wanted to, what I could do is slide this offset back just a little bit and go back and figure out which one that is. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and add my gusset plate now to the side of this. So I'm going to go ahead and do a fasten mate. I'm going to click on this back side here, and I'm going to click on this face here. It is flipped the wrong way, so I'm going to flip it. It is rotated the wrong way, so I'm going to rotate it. And then I'm going to go ahead and offset it so that I position this where I need it to go. So I'll hit offset. In the X direction, I will go, let's say 1/2 inch. In the other direction, that looks like it's centered that almost. In the Y direction, I'm going to come down. So can I see my arrows? This is a learning process for me as it is for you. So it looks like I have to go in the negative direction, but I may be proven wrong. Let's find out. Nope, I'm correct. All right, so -1. That looks like it's positioned there. And then what I need to do is, let's come over just a tad. Oh, too far. Okay. All right, so as you can see, I still have some issues. I need to bring my gusset plate over just a little bit. So I'm going to go -0.5 and take a look at that. Let's try. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this so that this gusset plate lines up with these holes a little bit better. Okay, so what I need to do is go back to my very first fasten that I did, which was this C channel. I'm going to double click it. And in the Y direction, I went -1.25. Let's see what happens when I do -1.2. Shift it over. I'm going to click OK. Notice it brings that gusset with it. I might need to try just a little bit more. -1.18. And I may be able to get the screw through that. Okay, as you're building this, obviously you slide this where you need it to go. And put your screws in there and it works just fine. But let me go ahead and take this screw here, place it into this gusset. Using that fasten mate. And hover over this, and I'm going to hold shift and place it here. I'm going to offset that into the Z direction. Let's try 0.25. And then I'm going to click OK. It looks a little too far in. There we go. Okay. And then I'll do the same thing for the other one. That over here. Hold shift, grab that, offset 0.22, click OK. And there I have that. Okay. Still need a couple of Keps nuts. So again, if you need to add anything else to your library, you could, or to your assembly, you can go and copy and paste some of these other components, or if you go to insert, if you happen to install the VEX V5 parts library as explained in the curriculum, then you can go ahead and find what you're looking for here. I need a couple of shaft collars, so I'm going to look for bearings collars. Here we go. And here is high strength. I need just a standard shaft collar. I'll do 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and fasten mate this to this. Click OK. Looks pretty good. And then I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. Drag these over. I'm going to go ahead and fasten mate this one here. To the center of this. And I'm going to offset it in the Z direction. Okay. So this shaft collar is going to hold this lever in place so it doesn't slide out. This one's going to prevent the axle from sliding out this way. And to be honest, I think with these two shaft collars, I think I'm pretty good. I don't think I need that other shaft collar. Okay. Well, anyway, so if you don't need it, click it, hit delete, get rid of it. All right, so now I've got my lever made out of Vex components. I can go ahead and, oh, I'm missing a screw. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this 1/2-inch screw. Copy. I'm going to paste. Let me go ahead and do a fasten mate real quick. Add that to maybe this one here. Offset it. Looks like the Z direction. Let's try 1/2 inch. Looks like a little too far. Okay. I need another Keps nut. So let me go and copy this one. I'm going to go ahead and paste it. I'm going to go ahead and fasten the center of this to the center of this. I'm going to offset it in the Z direction. Let's try. Oops, wrong way. Okay, it's pretty good there. May be a little too far in, but you can play with that. And now I've got my assembled lever. Now I added these two. These are actually models, but what I can do is I can go ahead and represent the effort force and the resistance force. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do another fasten mate. I'm going to come down here to my effort force and click on that. I'm going to come over here to the top of my lever, and I'm going to click maybe right here, see what happens. Let me rotate this. Oh, you know what? Let me undo that. I think I just go to click on the top face there. Flip that. You can offset this if you'd like. I think I like it where it's at. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the resistance force. There we go. Now, in your classroom, what you could do is you could give these give some values to your effort and your resistance force and tell them their effort force is, X and your resistance force is Y. And then based on the dimension, have them place these when they create their assembly in the locations of where you would have a static equilibrium situation. In other words, where the moment of the effort force balances the moment of the resistance force. And they can place this where it needs to go so that we have a balanced situation. Okay. Again, I think if you wanted to continue on with this, you could add some more components. I'm probably missing, I'm missing some Keps nuts down there. But you guys, I think at this point, are able to add those components on your own and assemble that to your liking. I hope this video is helpful. Thank you and have a great rest of the day.